Test, test. Test, test. See.
We'll call the meeting to order at 1:58 p.m. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustments. I'm your chair, Melinda McGregor. To my right, I have Anthony Rossi, Frank Bruni, and to my left, Joseph Greco. And I'd also like to introduce you to our Secretary Treasurer, Michelle Kelly, and our Planning Department Representative, Steve Zappa.
Madam Chair, we'll start with respect with the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawateng. Bawateng is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Madam Chair, I've been advised by Member Greco that he wishes to declare a pecuniary interest in item 3. Item 3 is looking for a motion to defer, but Member Greco will make his declaration today. Item 3 is 312 Pine Shore Drive. Is there anyone in the gallery for 312 Pine Shore Drive? The applicants requested a deferral to February 21st, 2024, so that he can review his site plan details with his designer. There's some discrepancy there. So if I could have a motion for a deferral, please.
Motion for a deferral. From Anthony and second by Frank. All in favor?
Thank you. Madam Chair, we'll move to the first matter on our agenda, and that would be application A124. It's an application from Manuel and Lena Oliveira, 140 Westridge Road. It is located on the south side of Westridge Road, approximately 90 meters east of the North Street intersection. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R2 single unit residential. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by reducing the east side yard requirement to facilitate the construction of a 4.26 meter by 8.53 meter attached carport, specifically sections 9.1.5, which requires a minimum distance from the interior side lot line of 1.2 meters. The applicant seeks to reduce the minimum distance from the east interior side lot line to 0.6 meters to the carport wall and to 0.3 meters to the eave. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and posting on the city website. Technical review of the application. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review: Building Division, Conservation Authority, Engineering, Fire Services, Legal Department, Planning, and all had no objections. Building Division staff has no objection to this application, however, advised that based on the proposed proximity to the side lot line, little used sections of the Ontario Building Code will likely apply that will require additional design requirements. These requirements will limit openings, possibly allow none, in the wall nearest to the property line, as well as require protective measures to combat against the possible spread of fire from one building to the next. And that's an advisement from Building Division. And it's simply to let you know, Mr. Oliveira, that that will be looked at as part of your permit application if the application is approved. And it's customary for applications of this nature. Planning Division staff had no concerns, advising that a number of properties in the neighborhood have carports or garages situated close to the lot line between the subject property and the abutting property. Thus, the requested variance does not represent a significant deviation from the neighborhood character. Planning staff do not expect any nuisance or privacy issues with the carport and are comfortable with the carport, assuming building requirements are adhered to. Therefore, planning is of the opinion that the requested variance is minor, is desirable for the appropriate use of the property, and maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. Considerations to date are there's no objections from staff. There's no evidence to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. Madam Chair, I would just like to note as a caution that the proposed construction of the carport is very close to the property line. The houses on each side are skewed slightly, so care will really have to be taken in mapping out your property lines. And I would note that both neighbors are in attendance, both the applicant and the abutting neighbor. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. And, I'd just like to ask Manuel if you would like to come up and talk or ask the committee questions. Okay, thank you. And who was the neighbor that was here?
Just sitting, speak.
Okay, does anybody want to speak to the matter that? Yes, hi. If you could just give your name and your address, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
So how far it's gonna be from my house and she's one point 16.90, 16.05. Okay, and then I was looking up on drawings. And on the drawings, they have 16.4 inches of property line. Now, if I go to my old of when the house was made, property line is 6.6 feet on an angle, and
It's going in.
Okay,
the front is 4.9, and on an angle it goes to 6.
okay.
I was worried about is a 6.6. Yeah, 2 feet has to be minimum 2.
If I could just explain,
Sure.
there is a survey available for both Mr. Oliveira's property and Mr. Turpin's property. The survey reveals on both plans that there's sufficient space for this variance to work. The reason I cautioned is because of that very angle that Mr. Turpin mentions, that I would suggest that both Mr. Oliveira and Mr. Turpin and whoever's to lay the foundation for your carport, draw a line along the property line, and you can get that very easily by measuring out from both houses and confirm where that property line is for that length of the carport and work from that. There is sufficient space on Mr. Oliveira's survey to show that he could locate this carport as suggested and not interfere with Mr. Turpin's property. And those are my submissions.
Do you have any other questions for Michelle?
That would go, the post would go right into the paved drive. So you're going to 2 feet.
Regardless of where it
Where-
goes to the, yes.
The
Yeah.
other issue was water, making sure the water doesn't come on my property, because it's a little bit lower angle.
Yeah, and the requirement for everyone's property is that you control the drainage on your property. So it's my understanding that his roof line is not pointed to your property, it's from front to back. Is that correct, Mr.? Yes. So if there's any drainage and it wouldn't be snow would be falling on his property, as would the water. He'd have to direct it on his own property.
I'm s- in the diagram, the difference of a couple, 3 inches. So.
Yes,
it's diagram.
we'll have to go by the survey. The site plan that you have was made when there wasn't a survey available for Mr. Oliveira's property.
Sir,
That's a certificate, a surveyor's certificate. And I'm suggesting that you use your surveyor's certificate and Mr. Oliveira's surveyor's certificate, which I've confirmed the measurements are the same. Paint your line or draw a put a string up or whatever, and that foundation will come in 2 feet into Mr. Oliveira's property from that common line if the application is approved, and all the way down. So that corner of your house that's slightly skewed and his slightly skewed will still have to be 2 feet back.
I was just worried about that.
Yeah, no, it will still have to be 2 feet back, the closest point of the carport.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Mhm.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yeah.
Mr. Oliveira, you understand what I was suggesting for plotting that out when you go to begin construction? Thank you.
So we're gonna go by his.
You're going to use both. You're going to use both.
Both,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. And do you have any questions from committee members?
No.
No? Okay, with that, I'll like to close the discussion and ask for a motion.
Fine. And desire. Minor, I think findings from planning staff. So make the motion with it, either suddenly.
Just to note, building division's comments are an advisement and not to be put on as a condition.
Thank you, Joseph. And can I get someone to second?
Second.
Second by Anthony, and all in favor? Okay, so motion passed, and once your motion's passed, or goes through or whatnot, you're welcome to leave.
Madam Chair, we'll move to item 2 on your agenda, which is application A224, and it's an application from Christopher McEwen, the owner of 75 Norden Crescent. The subject property is located on the south side of Norden Crescent between Malouch Street and Linstead Street. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R2 single unit residential. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by allowing a 28-foot travel trailer to be in the required front yard, specifically section 4.2. Unless otherwise noted in this bylaw, every part of a required yard shall remain open and unobstructed by any building or structure from the ground to the sky. The applicant is asking approval to allow a 28-foot travel trailer to be in the required front yard approximately 3.65 meters from the front property line. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and posting on the city website. Steve and Angela Walls of 79 Norden Crescent advised that the travel trailer that was parked at 75 Norden Crescent did not bother them in any season or in any way. Kathy Smith of 70 Norden Crescent submitted the following comments. I reside at 70 Norden Crescent, directly across the street from the applicant. I acquired my property in November 2021 and immediately moved in. I enjoy living in the neighborhood and my neighbors, but have not had the pleasure of getting to know the applicants. My comments are based on what I have observed from my property. I did witness for a number of months a large travel trailer stored in the front yard at 75 Norden. The trailer occupied most of the front yard and blocked views of the house from the street. It was only when the trailer was moved off the property that I could see what the front of the house looked like. Since it was a very long trailer, I also saw how it took skill in the use of neighbors' property to move the trailer from the property. Now that I see this application, I am wondering if storage of the trailer would be allowed to be permanent in the front yard. I also wonder about the precedent that could be set in our neighborhood by a granting of this application. I've seen the visual impact this trailer can have on our street. There are better places for trailer storage. As part of the application, circulated departments and agencies performed a technical review. As part of this application, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review. Building, Conservation Authority, Engineering, Fire Services had no comments or objections. Planning staff and legal department do not support the request. Bell Canada did not respond. Planning Division staff opined that approval of this application would allow for the trailer to be stored indefinitely within the required front yard of the lot, with no obligation to ever move the trailer as long as it is in working order. Although not specifically defined as a building or structure, the travel trailer will have the same visual impact as an accessory building structure if allowed to permanently occupy a space in the required front yard. The zoning bylaw prohibits accessory buildings and structures such as storage units, sheds, etc. in the front yard, and also prohibits required parking spaces within the required front yard area. The setbacks in the zoning bylaw for the R2 zone implement controls which support and protect the immediate spacing, privacy, density, light, and air of the buildings and gives the neighborhood its built form and character. Long-term outdoor storage of a travel trailer within the required front yard is not consistent with the streetscape and the character of the neighborhood. As such, planning is of the opinion that this variance is not minor and does not maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw regarding required front yards. Upon undertaking a scan of zoning bylaws in other municipalities in Ontario, it was found that a few similar-sized municipalities explicitly permit the storage of travel trailers in the driveway. However, restrictions are placed on the length and height of the trailer, the storage location, not in the front yard, and/or a period of storage, typically less than 72 hours or only within the spring-summer months. No examples of similar-sized municipalities permitting the indefinite storage of a 28-foot travel trailer within the required front yard was found. Therefore, planning is of the opinion that the requested variance is not minor, is not desirable for appropriate use of the property, and does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. However, it is noted that the properties along the south side of Norton Crescent have particularly wide boulevards, and the applicant does not have an alternatives option to store the trailer in the required front yard when it is parked on site. It is also understood that there have been no objections to this application. And I received that comment prior to the objections being lodged with me. Should the Committee of Adjustment choose to approve this application, it is recommended that a condition of approval be that when the trailer is present, the westerly portion of the circular driveway be blocked with a planter, bollard, or similar kind of obstruction that renders car parking physically unavailable in that portion of the required front yard. From legal's perspective, there is a degree of difficulty with this request. For one, it's hard to grant permission for the specific trailer without unintended consequences. And two, allowing this exemption would have a ripple effect. Legal does not support the application. Considerations for the committee are the easterly abutting property owners support the request. A property owner on the opposite side of the street has concerns. Planning Division staff opine that the variance does not meet the test for a minor variance. Legal department does not support the application. Planning Department is suggesting that should the committee approve the application, they recommend that it be made conditional on the westerly portion of the circular driveway being blocked to prevent vehicles parking in that area when the trailer is on site. Madam Chair and committee members, those are my submissions, and Mr. McEwen and Mrs. McEwen are in the gallery.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Mr. and Mrs. McEwen, would you like to come up to the podium and have any questions for Michelle or the committee? Or comments as well?
So my only comment is the complaint that actually spurred this whole thing wasn't a complaint. The trailer itself so much as it was somebody thought there was somebody living in it. And I assume that's because it was plugged in, slide out, and that it had 2 years. So that's where this all stemmed from. We moved it, we parked it, like to bring it home. It was there for a long time before this complaint ever came in. And there are other similar trailers in our neighboring areas. Also, of the bylaw.
Questions for Michelle? Or for the committee, not just for Michelle, sorry.
No.
Okay, so do committee members have any questions for the McEwens?
Just a question.
Sure.
The intent of the length of time that you're gonna keep the trailer there, is that gonna be year round or,
Yes, it would be.
yeah,
Bit one.
or just placed? Yeah,
Travel,
sure.
it's like
Yeah.
anything else, but
Any other questions? With that, I'd like to close the discussion or the questions and ask for any discussion from the committee prior to asking for a motion.
It's not a minor. And it's
So then we'll put forth a motion or, okay, does anybody have any comments before we close the discussion?
for
To me, doesn't meet the test. It's like it's like almost like a perm. Can be, we. Easy. Triple or even. Use the vibe that. It's more there than.
Right.
Yeah. Reason.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Any comments from you, Anthony?
Yeah, I assume, that's why I asked the length of duration, why
For
that
sure.
therefore,
Okay,
it's not, doesn't appear to be temporary in nature.
thank you. And I'll close the discussion, ask for a motion.
has some minor, so it, the official. Offends the zoning bylaw. It's not desirable. Can you use, it's, Rooney and Rossi. Drop. Variance is not my. That the
Joseph, and can I get a second for that motion?
I'll stop.
Thank you, Anthony, and all in favor? So the motion has been denied.
What's the process now?
Michelle can explain that to you.
When you get your written decision, the appeal provisions are there. You can appeal the committee's decision to LPAT, the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal. And they would schedule a hearing to come to the SU. There's Ministry of Finance Revenues fee and the city fee for processing the materials that would have to go to LPAT. And at the hearing, they would expect to have a professional planner evidence to support your request. So when you get your written decision, you'll see when it has to be appealed by and the cost. Then if that's your intent to appeal, please get in touch with me and we'll go forward.
Thank you.
Tab 3 on your agenda was deferred. So the tab 4 on the agenda and that's application A424. And I know that there's no one in the gallery on that application. The application is from Elizabeth Felice. It's 597 Douglas Street. It is located on the southwest corner of Douglas Street and Wilding Avenue. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R3 low density residential. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by increasing the height of a portion of the existing fence. Specifically, section 7.2 requires a maximum fence height in an interior side yard of 1.8 meters. The applicant seeks to increase the maximum height for the rear 7+ meter portion of the fence to 2.43 meters. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and posting on the city website. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review: Building, Conservation Authority, Engineering, Legal, Planning, and PUC, and Fire Services had no comment or objection. The Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority advised that any development on the subject property will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. Planning staff have no objections. It is understood that the application for relief is due to the variations of grade along the proposed fence line, and most of the proposed fence will adhere to the zoning bylaw regulations. Relief is requested for the interior side yard at the back of the property, more than 35 meters away from the street intersection. The requested relief is minor and will not adversely impact the streetscape of the abutting properties. For your consideration, no objections from staff or neighboring property owners, and there's been no evidence presented to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Michelle. Do I have any questions from committee members? That I'd like to close the discussion and ask for a motion. Motion by. Okay, thank you, Frank. And a second? To approve, yes, thank you.
I'll s-
Second by Anthony, and all in favor? Okay, motion passed.
Mr. Simpson, moving on to the next application, A524. It's an application from Tyler and Amy Simpson, 100 Indiana Drive. It is located on the easterly side of the east leg of Indiana Drive between Shannon Road and Idaho Drive. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan as zone R2 single unit residential. Relief is requested from the provisions of bylaw 2005-150 as amended by reducing the required front yard to facilitate the construction of a 22.6 square meter front entrance mudroom addition. Specifically, section 9.6.2 of zoning bylaw 2005-150 requires a minimum front yard of 7.5 meters. The applicant seeks to reduce the minimum required front yard to 6 meters for the proposed 22.6 square meter addition only. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city website. Building, engineering, legal, planning, fire, public works, and PUC services had no objections or comment to the application. Bell Canada and the Conservation Authority did not respond. Building Division noted that this structure will require a building permit. It is also noted that there are overhead conductors within proximity of the proposed addition, which may affect the proposed location. A swing calculation will be required at the time of permit application to determine if the proposed location will meet the requirements of subsection 3.1.19 of the Ontario Building Code Act. And again, that's just to give you a heads up that they'll be looking at that when you submit a permit application. Planning staff have no objections. The residential units along Indiana Drive and elsewhere in the neighborhood were typically built offset from adjacent residential units by 1 to 3 meters. This gives the appearance of a somewhat staggered streetscape rather than one where all homes were uniformly built to the same setback. Therefore, the addition does not alter the character or visual interest of the neighborhood and blends in with the streetscape. Considerations, no objections from staff or neighboring property owners. No evidence was presented to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. And those are my submissions.
So, Mr. Simpson?
Are you here for this application?
Okay, sorry about
84
that.
Roosevelt. Yeah, and I'm addressing for Mr. Simpson.
I thought you were addressing someone, but I wasn't sure.
And Mr. Simpson's not here.
Okay, so do I have any questions or comments from committee members for Michelle?
None.
Okay. So I'd like to close the discussion and ask for a motion. Anybody? Thank you, Joseph. And a second? Second by Frank. All in favor? Okay, motion passed.
Well. We'll move on to item 6 on the agenda. That would be application B124, 1644385 Ontario Limited, which is Winmar, is the owner of 184 Roosevelt Avenue. It is located on the east side of the easterly leg of Roosevelt Avenue between North Eden Square and Whitney Avenue. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is owned R2 single unit residential and environmental management. The applicant is seeking the committee's consent to sever the subject property into 2 parcels, both fronting on Roosevelt Avenue. The proposed lot configuration is 36 meter frontage by 66.479.6 meter depth, an area of 0.243 hectares, and the other parcel is 30.586 meters of frontage, the same depth, 66.479 meters, and an area of 0.202 hectares. The intent of the application is to provide autonomous title to each semi-detached unit. Again, notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city website. Bell Canada Building Division, Conservation Authority, Engineering, Planning Division, PUC Services, and Public Works had no concerns or objections. Bell Canada right-of-way has identified that they require protection for existing facilities. They attached a sketch. The blue line indicates the approximate location of active critical infrastructure located on the property known municipally as 184 Roosevelt Avenue. Bell Canada's facilities provide essential access to the network. Of major concern is the ability to access our equipment, particularly in the event of an interruption or emergency that would require Bell Canada to restore service to regular telephone lines, alarm services, internet access, and most importantly, ensure the continuity of 911 service. Bell Canada requests a 3-meter wide easement to measure 1.5 meters on either side of the aerial infrastructure to extend a minimum of 1.5 meters from the base of the pole to 0.5 meters on either side of any guy wire if present, as can be reasonably accommodated within the property boundaries. Since the intention of the requested easement is to protect the integrity of the existing facilities and preserve many services, they request that the cost associated with registration be the responsibility of the landowner. We hope this proposal meets with your approval and request a copy of the committee's decision. Should our request receive approval, we look forward to the owner's solicitor contacting us with a draft reference plan accompanying draft easement documents for our approval prior to registration, along with an acknowledgement and direction for our execution. The building division had no objections, further advising that their files reveal that a conditional permit for a new semi-detached dwelling is outstanding. A full permit is required to be obtained and full occupancy issued. The Conservation Authority advised that any development on the subject property or the severed property will require a site plan review and may require a permit from the Conservation Authority. PUC Services advised that water and electric services are individually serviced on their respective properties, therefore have no concerns with the severance. Recommendations for the committee's consideration. Recommended conditions of any approval are: provide a transfer deed of land for certificate of official. Parks levy, provide certificate of official application fees. Provide reference plan, provide PIN abstract and a PIN map. Minor variance application approval where required. Discharge of charge or partial discharge of charge or mortgage. Payment of taxes. And the Bell Canada easement that has been requested. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair, and the representative is Noah Russell from Winmar.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And Noah, do you want to come up to any questions for the committee or Michelle? Okay.
Goes with final section.
Okay, so the comment from building is not meant as a condition. It's intended as an advisement. Has that been done just recently? Yeah, so I probably had the comment ahead of time, so it will appear in your decision,
Yep.
but it won't appear as a condition. So what it's intended to do is, if you're certain that it's been done, it's already been done, and if it hasn't been done, it needs to be done.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you. And committee members, do you have any questions for Noah or Michelle? Perfect. And with that, I'll ask for a motion.
Those,
Okay, thank you, Frank. And second by Joseph, and all in favor? Okay, motion passed. Thank you.
and our final application is application B 2923, Daniel Fremlin Holdings, Inc. The subject property is 153 Daisy Road. It is located on the southwesterly side of Daisy Road between Hardwood Street and Chambers Avenue. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and is zoned R2 single unit, single detached residential, and R4 medium density residential. The applicant is seeking the committee's consent to sever and convey an irregular shaped parcel fronting on Daisy Road as follows: 20.5 meters fronting on Daisy Road, a regular depth, 576.6 meters in area. The other parcel would be 79.73 meter frontage on Daisy Road, again irregular in shape. 688.8 meters is the retained parcel. The intent of the application is to provide autonomous title to the residential development currently under construction. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city's website. The following internal departments and external agencies received an invitation to comment. No concerns were raised that would preclude this application from moving forward. Bell Canada Right-of-Way did not respond. Building Division did not respond. Canada Post advised that arrangements are already in place and planned with the owner. Excuse me. Conservation Authority, no objection. Engineering Construction. Engineering has reviewed the application and note the following. Easements will be required for shared servicing and access. Operation and maintenance agreements are also recommended to determine cost and responsibilities for shared services. An environmental compliance approval from MECP is likely required for the stormwater management facilities. The site is subject to an existing site plan and agreement. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no objections. PUC Distribution Electric advised the following. In order for phases 2 and 3 to proceed, based on the electrical servicing design package received, a private electrical service easement will be required from the severed lot, being phase 1, for the retained lots, phases 2 and 3, in favor of the retained lots. The primary electrical system will be required to be a looped configuration for all phases of the project. All electrical infrastructure on either property other than the pad-mounted transformers will be owned and installed by the owner at the cost of the owner as per PUC specifications and with PUC design and inspection approval requirements met. The transformers will be installed as per the OEB economic evaluation process. It is recommended that the owner's consultant contact PUC engineering to review before finalizing any plans or designs. Public Utilities Commission Water Service Utility. Water servicing for the parent parcel, that is to say both the proposed retained and severed parcels, was approved by PUC under the condition that it services the entire parent parcel. If the property is severed, PUC will consider the conditions of water services letter dated October 16, 2023 null and void. In addition, a new water service application will be required for both the severed and retained lots. If the property is severed, separate water services from the water main on Daisy Road will be required for each parcel. Private easements may be required to facilitate water servicing. So recommended condition of any approval are: provide a transfer deed of land for certificate of official, parks levy, provide certificate of official application fee, provide a reference plan, provide current PIN abstract and PIN map, minor variance application where required, provide discharge of charge or mortgage or partial discharge of charge or mortgage, payment of taxes, provide easements as required for shared servicing and access to the satisfaction of the Director of Engineering or his designate, enter into operation and maintenance agreements to the satisfaction of the Director of Engineering or his designate, satisfy the Director of Engineering or his designate that appropriate arrangements have been made regarding the stormwater management facilities, amend the existing site plan and agreement where deemed necessary to the satisfaction of the Director of Engineering and or Planning Director, satisfy PUC water utility and electrical utility and provide any easements deemed necessary. And when engineering talks about the easements as required for shared servicing and access and the operation and maintenance agreements, if the cities are not party to those easements, and I suspect they won't be, Then what we would require is just confirmation that the solicitors for both sides have come to an agreement. Those things are in place and they agree to them. And those are my submissions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Michelle.
Jeez.
Matt, do you have any questions for the committee or Michelle?
I guess no questions or comments at all.
Okay, thank you. And committee members, do you have any questions for Matt? No? Or Michelle?
Please.
We're just requesting one right now. So that is the one being the small piece that fronts on Daisy Road, the most easterly. See where that green, if you go on that green line, so that piece on Daisy Road to sever that development. PUC is just advising that if and when you go to phase 2 and 3, we're gonna need some more stuff.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, I will close the discussion and ask for a motion.
In favor. It's by the various departments.
Thank you, Joseph. And a second. Thank you, Anthony, and all in favor. Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, leave. That's okay. Well, yours goes off. These.
Thank you.
Vacated the chair for the election.
Oh.
So we'll
Like,
move on. To So I only have one person on the chair and that's Joe. And would you accept the nomination?
I would.
Go further and Mr. Chair for the year and first, I want to thank Melinda. You've done an outstanding job. It was with regret that she advised that she didn't stand for a nomination again, too busy. And we look forward to. So if I could have a motion to destroy the ballots,
I'll put the motion forward.
second. Chair, I'd like to take the chair. During the-
There's no other business. Then I get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'll put motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Rossi, second by Ms. McGregor.
These thing you'll have